Hey gang, Massad Ayoob here for the Wilson Combat Channel. If you're new here, welcome. To get the most out of the program, sign up on our subscription form and hit the notification bell that you'll see on your screen. That'll bring you a notification the next time one of Wilson Combat's subject matter experts drops a knowledge bomb that you might want to partake of. I've been asked to talk to you today about the role of the long gun in large-scale, potentially lethal, violent encounters, civil disruptions. The first thing with a long gun is the shotgun is not the optimal tool. You're going to need the precision of a carbine. Basically, if we're dealing with a crowd situation, what we're dealing with today is not an amorphous group of zombies from The Walking Dead where they're all targets of opportunity. You have a handful of very clever, violent agitators who are literally using well-meaning protesters as cover. So target discrimination and precision marksmanship are going to be absolutely critical. We have to look at a couple of situations. Let's say you're out and about and your vehicle has been caught up in one of these violent outbursts where they're setting cars on fire, dragging people out of cars and physically harming them. And we also have to look at the more recent threats to take this kind of violent disturbance into the suburbs and to threaten and attack people in their homes. Those are two very different profiles, so let's look at both threat profiles. Insofar as a long gun in the vehicle, the first thing you want to do is check your state's laws. There are some states where it's not legal without a carry permit to have a loaded handgun in the passenger compartment of your vehicle, but is legal to have a loaded long gun. There are some states that are the reverse, where I lived for most of my life. A concealed carry permit covered you in any vehicle you had a right to be in. But a loaded rifle or shotgun was a violation of the law, and it violated the fish and game laws. A loaded long gun in your car was seen as presumption of intent to commit poaching. So know what the laws are. Second, what you've got to look at is, for most of you, you're out of your vehicle more than you're in it. Carrying the loaded gun in and out of the house is going to be pretty conspicuous, pretty unusual, and frankly, pretty cumbersome. When you've left the gun in the vehicle, you've left it for anybody who wants to access it and steal. A great many of the guns used by criminals have been stolen from decent people who left them in unattended motor vehicles. Yeah, the glove box is locked. Yeah, the trunk is locked. Yeah, the doors are locked. A glass breaker, which is very common now among the rioters, is going to get them into the vehicle. A pry bar is going to get them into the glove box for the pistol, and a crowbar is going to get them out of the trunk. We've literally seen, you can go on YouTube and watch the action videos of some of the protests in the urban areas, where the criminals have literally ripped police car locks apart and stolen AR-15 patrol rifles out of the vehicles and then set the police cars on fire. If that can happen to a police vehicle, it can happen to ours. If you have it securely locked in, let's say a heavy-duty lockable steel gun tray in the back of your SUV, now accessibility is going to be a problem when you really do need it. And if it's in the trunk of a passenger sedan, you're going to need to get out of the vehicle and expose yourself to danger and lose the ability to escape at speed just to access the gun. Once the long gun is in your hand, you are now conspicuously armed. And we know that the law says against multiple violent opponents, the disparity of force principle, if they're attacking you, authorizes your recourse to a per se deadly weapon like this Wilson Combat AR-15. The general public and some of the prosecutors who got elected to office with contributions from George Soros may not see it that way. They may see you as the initial aggressor. Look, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, these peaceful, unarmed protesters with their arson flares glowing in the background were unarmed, and he brought out his deadly assault weapon of war. Plug in whatever anti-gun cliche you want. We are looking at a six-figure legal bill to get you out of that, and a nightmare for your whole family. So basically, we have to balance, we have to ask ourselves, okay, we've got the AR-15 in the car, what now? A lot of the choice, if you have chosen the AR-15, a lot of the choice is going to be caliber. If your situation is such, let's say you're a well-off person who might be subject to kidnapping, which we've seen a lot down by the Mexican border. It's probably going to begin with your vehicle being run off the road. It's going to be vehicle to vehicle. And the .30 caliber automatic rifle, forgive another cliche, is probably the weapon of choice when you have to deal with armed felons who are expressing hostile intent toward you and are ensconced inside a motor vehicle. This 300 Hammer would be an ideal choice for that, but would probably not be the caliber I'd want if I was surrounded by people in a city like Portland who were screaming threats and were dragging people out of cars and beating them. We don't want a round that's going to go through and through the intended target and strike an unseen bystander who is blocked from our view by darkness, by tunnel vision, which occurs in the majority of such cases, or simply their presence was physically blocked from you by the body of the offender. For that, I would be looking for a .223, a bullet no heavier than 55 grains and designed to expand. Something that would stay inside the body of a violent homicidal attacker and not exit to strike down one of those innocent bystanders. Let's look at the other scenario, home protection. Picture the besieged home. Now, that's something in this country that goes back to the founding of the nation. Native American tribes who were attacking American colonists. There, the shotgun is not the optimal tool. The shotgun makes very good sense, like a scattergun technologies with a short barrel, inside the home, because the limited penetration of buckshot compared to high-powered rifle bullets, for example. But when you're firing from the inside out, the besieged defender against the forces arrayed outside the structure, there you need distance, there you need some power certainly, and there you need the accuracy of a rifle. And whether you choose .223 or a .30 caliber like the 300 Hammer is going to depend largely on the area. I'd want a .223 in a suburban neighborhood. I'd lean toward something heavier in a rural area where a missed bullet or an exiting bullet was less of a danger. Consider in close something like the aim point type sight, some sort of red dot optic. It's going to be fast, it's going to be accurate, it's going to cover you at any reasonable distance that you can predict. If you were in a rural area and let's say a gang has arrayed themselves at some distance, maybe even taken cover, there you'd want the magnification of a telescopic sight for hit potential and again, of course, for target discrimination, as we see here. Whichever rifle you have for home defense or even vehicle defense, the handgun is a personal weapon, okay? It's like your underwear. Nobody wears it but you most of the time. The home defense gun or even the vehicle gun is what I would call a pool weapon. That is, this one firearm might be accessible to any number of family members who you know are competent with it, you know have good judgment, who you have authorized to use it in an emergency, in an exigent circumstance. One thing that we see a lot of in firearms training is the person who buys the family defense gun tends historically to be the alpha male of the household. And we see him come home with a big old M14 clone or a big old 3-inch Magnum 12 gauge with a full stock and tell his 5-foot-tall wife, honey, spent a lot of time researching, but I've got the ideal gun to protect you and the cubs. And when she puts it to her shoulder, being a foot shorter than him with proportionally shorter arms, she has to lean back off balance just to hold the damn thing up, and the recoil rocks her backward. You want to have a gun that will fit the smallest, least strong, least physically capable person in the household whose skill and judgment you trust. The beauty of the AR-15 with the telescoping type stock is in an instant, this quick, we can adjust it from the shortest person in the home to the longest. If you've chosen something like a fixed stock gun, which is unfortunately required in some states now, get it with the short stock to fit the shortest person. The small person trying to adapt to a long stock has to lean back off balance. Ask yourself if ever, when you were a little kid, you fired Daddy's 12 gauge and it knocked you flat on your butt. The shorter stock for the taller person is no problem. You simply come in closer, and if you're running conventional iron sights, you're closer and it simply turns it into a ghost ring without having to pay for an added sight. It's much easier for the large person to adapt to the small gun than vice versa. Above all, everyone needs to know you must avoid being seen as the initial aggressor, the person who started the fight. That'll be particularly an issue if you've taken the wrong turn and blundered into one of these things that is going on and escalating on a city street. If you can drive away, do so. Avoidance is always the best strategy. These are the fallbacks for when you could not avoid. You don't want them ever to be able to say, you went looking for trouble. You and your attorney want to always be able to say, the trouble came looking for you. Tailor the tool to the task. Good luck, stay safe, and stay tuned to the Wilson Combat Channel.